I am a part of editing communities, affiliates, and Wikimedia Foundation boards, so I love this question. Wikimedia are a big interconnected world of living self-governing communities. Each community needs accountability and leadership, and our governance is largely local. Project rules, discussions, administrators, outcomes, chapters, and it generally works just great. This is our strength, and this must be respected. However, global movement brings global responsibilities, legal and ethical. As the movement, we need to care about each other. We need to be confident that we do the right things, that our values, our editors, activists and volunteers, our officers, staffers, our readers are safe and taken care well. We need to know if projects are not filled with hoax or bias, because we don't want a pseudoscience or Nazi Wikipedia in some language. We need to know if the whole language is real, if our time and money are spent reasonably, if leaders are accountable, if people are treated well, if there are severe internal tensions hurting everyone, or if some groups are abused by others. And there must be a process for that. Currently, this primary steward is the Wikimedia Foundation, partially via its community boards. Language Committee, AFCOM, formerly the FDC, and now local grant-making teams, they are giving communities some safety nets. They can intervene when things go very wrong. Of course, one can challenge particular decisions, propose peer interventions, but the Wikimedia Foundation has dedicated volunteers and resources. In the FDC, while assessing plans and granting money, we needed to give feedback and maybe even make some interventions. Once we even raised a large red flag when we received complaints and then confirmed a very strange behavior of a large affiliate executives. I am proud we were first to name the problem and that our work allowed further steps finally helping this affiliate, its volunteers and staffers alike. This is needed. Of course, it must be careful, diligent, self-restricted, governed by global communities, but sometimes this is just necessary. In the future, when Movement Charter arrives, these factions can be, and probably will be, split from the Wikimedia Foundation and transferred elsewhere. But for now, they need to stay and maybe even be more active.
Usually, I believe the Wikimedia Foundation should not intervene in community affairs, and the community is to determine its own processes and governance. This is core to who we are as a movement. That said, there are three cases in which I believe the Wikimedia Foundation should intervene, and that is when there are threats to our values, threats to our operations, and threats to our volunteers. In threats to our values, I mean if people are systematically working to falsify information or add biased content to our projects, and the community is unable to solve it, that is a threat to our values, and it is legitimate for the Wikimedia Foundation to try and address it. In threat to our operations, I mean that if volunteers do something that can harm the smooth operations of the projects, then that's a good reason to interfere as well. For instance, I believe it is okay for the Wikimedia Foundation to block users who are knowingly using their permissions and creating backlogs that may crush our servers, and in that interfere with the service that we offer the general public through our different projects. Finally, and maybe the most important for me, threats to our volunteers. I'm referring to trust and safety issues. I cannot say a lot about that. Only mention that the Wikimedia Foundation is involved in supporting our volunteers in challenging circumstances. Think of war or any circumstances of violation of human rights. And sometimes in order to protect volunteers, we have to be discreet. So not everything we do can be transparent, but protecting our volunteers and our community is extremely important. And currently we do not have any other structure in the movement to actually do this type of work, with the exception of local affiliates, which the Wikimedia Foundation, of course, is collaborating with when something happens. I also wanted to note that I believe the Wikimedia Foundation should not just be in intervening mode, but rather be in consistent, close connection to the community. There should be mechanisms and platforms to have bi-directional dialogue on various issues, from strategy to operations of our projects. For this reason, I've actually founded the Community Affairs Board Committee. Its goal is to assess, explore, and address current and future community-related efforts. The main goal is for this committee to work with both the Wikimedia Foundation staff and the wider Wikimedia community in order to bridge conflicts and offer guidance, with a focus on continuously improving the relationships between the Wikimedia Foundation and the wider community.
In my opinion, I feel the WMF shouldn't interfere with community affairs unless it's in the area of trust and safety. And in that situation, the Wikimedia Foundation can step in. But aside that, I feel the Wikimedia Foundation shouldn't interfere in community affairs. Thank you.
First, the WMF should respect the autonomy and self-governance of each community. For the most part, these lines have been drawn over time and are well established. In general, the WMF should be following the communities, not leading. In the case of the most significant intervention in recent years, which was ending the community capture of the Chinese Wikipedia, it was something that had been asked for by community members who were unable to properly participate. Finally, as someone who is both a long-term volunteer and served as WMF staff for 8 years, it's important that the WMF maintains a good working relationship with community members. Incidents like Super Protect, partial bans, and branding are so problematic, not just because of the specific issue in question, but because they damage the staff and community relationship in the long run, which ends up taking years to rebuild trust. This ends up harming everyone and only sets the movement back.
Communities have different ways of governing themselves and should be left to their own devices. Communities and community members, whether online or offline, have a duty to uphold the movement's universal code of conduct and to abide by the relevant laws. The Wikimedia Foundation can provide support to, but should not interfere in, the internal affairs of online or offline communities. The Wikimedia Foundation maintains vast talents and resources in all areas, which it should lend to the communities when needed. A prime example of where the Foundation can help the online communities is technology. Implementing items from the community wish list is a great way the Foundation can support the editing communities. The Foundation also has the capacity to offer organizational, legal, and financial support to communities. The Trust and Safety team is supposed to ensure a safe environment for community members, but should use discretion when intervening in community affairs, especially if it's an issue that can be resolved without intervention from the Foundation. On the other hand, if a situation arises which poses a threat to personal safety, the Foundation's intervention is warranted. For example, if the physical safety of a community member is under legitimate threat by another community member or by a state actor. Internal disputes in communities should not be interfered in except as a last resort, such as if there is a serious violation of the code of conduct that the community is unable to or unwilling to address.
Ideally, the Foundation should never have to intervene in community affairs. However, there are cases where it has to, primarily for trust and safety reasons, but also for legal reasons. It should always do so very carefully, respecting local community processes and, where possible, widely consulting with the community before intervening. There are also a lot of opportunities where it could intervene better and more often in constructive ways, such as through tech development, strategy, and fostering partnerships between editors and institutions alongside affiliates. However, this is more participation than it is intervention.